All right. Good morning. Well, I shouldn't say good morning. Good God, I am lost. Good evening. We are going to check out Bobby Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Mr. Robert Kennedy speech uh, today. So let's check a little bit. I got a pizza cooking in the oven. So we're going to watch a little bit of this speech that Mr. Bobby Kennedy gave today, due or in effect to HHS. Let me get this set up so they don't try and take everything I own again. All right, am I in the right chat? Good God, I hope so. All right, I gotta paste that also. Folks, I'm pasting the channel we're watching in my description, giving them all credit. Also in my chat. All right, now let's watch a little bit of this.
And the guinea pigs and to look through the microscopes. And for me, that was an extraordinary thrill to see scientists who were engaged in this existential search for existential truths and who were working to make our country stronger and to make our people stronger. Those were different times. America was at the apex of its power and prestige, and all the world looked to us for leadership. This was particularly true of NIH and CDC and FDA. They provided the gold standard of science and research, trusted the world over. They produced scientific heroes like Bernice Eddy, Sarah Elizabeth Stewart, and Frances Kelsey. Frances Kelsey was, of course, the young FDA scientist who, through her own stubbornness and integrity, saved our country from the scourge of thalidomide and left a wake of grim birth defects and grotesque mutations and deformities across Europe. In 1962, my uncle John F. Kennedy honored Stewart with the President's Award. My uncle John F. Kennedy honored Stewart with the President's Award for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service, the government's highest civilian honor. The greatness of NIH was rooted in its unimpeachable integrity. It truly deserved the reputation for conducting science in the public interest. Countries that didn't have their own research institution, for example, the new countries of post-colonial Africa, trusted American science so much, and many of them wrote into their own laws, if the FDA approved it, then it's approved in our country as well. I want the agencies under HHS to earn that level of global trust. And what is the path to public trust? The path to trust is always through transparency. Transparency is the foundation of science, and it is the foundation of democracy. I think it's significant that an overwhelming majority of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence, who were this nation's founding fathers, were also citizen scientists. These included Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, John Adams, James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Rush, a physician, Julian Bartlett, a physician, Matthew Thornton, a physician, and Oliver Wolcott, a physician. Science and democracy were born together during the Enlightenment, and they share the same ideals for openness, for public access, and for transparency. Science and democracy flourish from the free and unimpeded flow of information. No one trusts science that isn't transparent about its research hypothesis, its raw data, or its conflicts of interest. No one trusts a government built on lies, on secrets, on cover ups, and propaganda. That's why my uncle famously observed that the word secrecy is repugnant to a free and open society. Healthcare policy has been the subject of intense controversy for 20 years. But have you noticed that the controversy is almost entirely about who pays for it? Republicans and Democrats fight these ferocious battles on Capitol Hill, and it's always about who to shift the burden of paying for it. And for me, I've said before, this is like moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. Our health is getting worse and worse. And when the total costs are over $4 trillion as they are now, there is no good solution, only less bad ones. We need to start asking a very different question. Regardless of who pays, why are we paying so much? Well, which is, by the way, 2 to 3 times what European nations pay for better, for worse health outcomes. Well, corruption and efficiency may be part of it. But the main reason is quite simply that Americans are very, very sick. We are, in fact, the sickest nation on earth with the highest chronic disease burden in the world or in the history of the world. During COVID, we had in this country 16% of the global COVID deaths. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. So something we were doing was utterly wrong. And the CDC says that's because we're the sickest people in the world. They say that the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So were they dying from COVID or were they dying from chronic disease? According to some...
Mr. Kennedy, if I may say, sir, America is the sickest country because we have open borders. That's why some of us have third world country diseases, but yet they've never been out of the United States, sir. So I hope you can take a look at that. That I'm sure you yourself can tell when we really, and I agree 100% with with Mr. Robert Kennedy. The United States at one time was a earth shaker, a powerful, powerful thing. And I hate to say it, but if it was not for our doctors and scientists coming up with vaccines that were tested, because back then they did things right. It might have took a little bit before they found out how to cure it or to stop it, but they didn't create it, and the next day they were pumping it out to the American people. It didn't work that way back then. And like I said, if it wasn't for a lot of this stuff, vaccines, most of us probably would have had polio, scoliosis, and numerous things we would have had if we did not get vaccinated. So Mr. Kennedy is telling the truth. At one time, we were the powerhouse. Our scientists, our doctors solved certain diseases and immune deficiency problems with vaccines. And other countries depended on us. And I'm not saying I have a third world country disease, but I'm saying we are seeing more people in this country that has never left this country, but yet they have third world diseases and outbreaks in our country. Why? Because we have open borders. And I cannot lie. That is the truth. Open borders, and we're constantly having people travel to other places and coming back. And by the time they go on vacation and get back, When they get back, then they usually get sick, right? And then boom, it happens. It spreads. And sometimes our own problems happen from our own mistakes in our own country by doing labs and experiments ourselves in this country. You cannot put the blame on everyone else because that's why we're getting backlash, right? That's why people are saying, look, if they can't even admit when they are wrong. They can't even admit when they do steal money. They can't even, you know, well, that's true. Let's continue to listen to Mr. Kennedy. I got to check my pizza.
Estimates 90% of healthcare spending today goes toward managing chronic disease. When my uncle was president, it was zero. We didn't even have drugs for chronic disease then. And now it's become a burden that's threatening to sink our country. So my main mission at HHS, in which I hope that you will all join me, is to reverse the chronic disease epidemic in America. How are we going to do that? It isn't by replacing one paradigm with another one by force. I'm not going to come in here and impose my belief over any of yours. Instead, we're going to work together to launch a new era of radical transparency. Only through radical transparency can we provide Americans with genuine informed consent, which is the bedrock and the foundation stone of democracy. Transparency allows diverse parties to establish common ground of mutually trusted information. That's a basic precept of science. Results have to be reproducible. The whole experiment has to be open to scrutiny and replication. It's no secret that many of our institutions of democracy, of course, but even of science and medicine, are no longer transparent. As a consequence, they have become inefficient, dysfunctional, or corrupt. They have fallen captive to the profit-making industries. They have stagnated in bureaucratic secrecy and in siloing. They have lost touch with ordinary citizens. But here's the paradox that a lot of crusaders need to understand. Most of the people who work in these institutions and agencies and organizations are competent, ethical, and caring, and idealistic. I think that's especially true at HHS. When I was a boy, I particularly admired the scientists that I saw there because I thought these are the smartest people in the world, and yet they're not receiving much money. They're very low paid compared to people who are using high IQs to acquire things and to acquire status and money. That means they must have been motivated by something higher, something more idealistic. And I still believe that today. I believe that most of you here are not here for the money. You don't enter government service to get rich. That's for sure.
I agree 100% with him. You're not going to get rich. There's no money. You know why? Because people more smarter with computers and laws and phrasing of words got the money before the researchers. How? Oh, I'm telling you how. The government put aside so much money for research, they sent people in talking like they were going to do this, that. They weren't even the real people. The money got distributed to them. Right? Well, we spent 200 and something dollars. Well, they're supposed to be working on this. Where'd the money go? Why ain't it be used for that? And they ain't produce. It's almost like a government military contract. We waste money. We give money out, but we don't expect anything back except for planes. Their design of the military defense guy that's creating the plane or the ships. They go with the lowest bidder. And some of these people are fake. They couldn't build a plane or a boat if their lives depended on it. But the money's there. By the time they figure out they're not boat people, they're not doctors, they're not scientists, the money's gone, they're gone, and the whole thing was in front. And then you ain't got no money to go to the real research people that are trying to save lives. That's making a 100,000 a year. You know, that's baby crap compared to uh, what people get paid today, or 75 grand a year or whatever. They're not getting paid a lot. Right? Are they smart? Sure they are. Are they trying to save society, mankind, humanity? Sure. And there's even bad people in them organizations. Let's continue.
On a, on a basic level, I trust the idealism of most of the people who work at HHS. I also understand the corrosive power of money as it infiltrates and captures institutions like ours. My goal as secretary here at HHS will be to create a culture of competency, of ethics, of openness, of transparency, of caring, of pride, so that individuals who share these ideals can flourish and thrive. Sure, those who are unwilling to embrace those kind of ideals can retire. And I understand that it is a system and not the people in it that is the main problem. This is how the agencies under the HHS umbrella will recover their reputations as unimpeachable sources of scientific information to guide policymaking, medical professionals, the public, and the whole world. We will remove conflicts of interest from the committees and research partners whenever possible, or balance them with other stakeholders. We will shut the revolving door to reestablish public trust. We will make our data and our policy process so transparent that people won't even have to file a FOIA request. Another reason why our agencies have lost public trust is that they become too politicized. Well, our health should not be a political issue. As I said to President Trump the other day, there's no such thing as Democratic children or Republican children. These are all of our children, and all of us want to keep them healthy. It should be an issue of science and an issue of basic human compassion. Science gets politicized when power and profit are involved, and power and profit are blind to compassion. Reducing the influence of money, therefore, goes hand in hand with depoliticizing HHS. I've spoken of science, and now let me speak about compassion. HHS is the home to programs like Medicare and Medicaid, and between them serve over 160 million Americans. The same Doge technology that has uncovered vast amounts of waste and fraud can be used to better serve our fellow citizens who depend on these programs to make sure that no one is left behind and no one is left out. We will aim to set a standard of courtesy, efficiency, professionalism, and integrity that will make HHS again the envy of the world. Let me say one more thing about politicization, and this is personal. As you know, I've come through a very highly polarized confirmation process. The fog of narrative warfare has made it hard to get a sense of who I am and what I believe and what I represent. A lot of times when I read these articles characterizing me, I think to myself, I wouldn't want to work for that guy either. So since we all are here together, I have a request to make from you, my new colleagues. Let's start a relationship by letting go of any preconceptions that you may have about me, and let's start from square one. Let's establish a mutual intention to work toward what we all care about, the health of the American people. In return, I want to make a promise to all of you. It's also about preconceptions. I'll start by acknowledging that throughout my career, I've asked a lot of difficult questions, and I've come to a lot of unpopular conclusions. I'm going to keep asking those kind of questions. What I promise to you now is to hold my preconceived answers lightly. I promise to be willing to be wrong. I promise to listen to all the stakeholders, all the parties to the conversation, including the ones, especially the ones with whom I've disagreed in the past. I promise to keep an open mind toward every possibility and every contingency. I hope you will all join me in this commitment, because the health of our people is a lot more important than being right or being vindicated. We can start right now. Last Thursday, President Trump signed an executive order to establish the MAHA Commission to study what has caused the precipitous decline in American health over the past 2 generations. So we will convene representatives of all viewpoints to study the causes for the drastic rise in chronic disease. Some of the possible factors we will investigate were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. The childhood vaccine schedule, electromagnetic radiation, glyphosate, other pesticides, ultra-processed foods, artificial food additives, SSRI and other psychiatric drugs, PFAs, PFOAs, microplastics. Nothing is going to be off limits. Whatever belief or suspicion I have expressed in the past, I'm willing to subject them all to the scrutiny of unbiased science. That is going to be our template, unbiased science. That's something that will make us all proud of this agency and of our role in restoring American health. Let's commission research that will satisfy all the stakeholders once and for all. Let's use protocols that we all agree on in advance and not alter the outcomes of studies when they're halfway through and that they look inconvenient. Let's all depoliticize these issues and reestablish a common ground for action and renew the search for existential truth with no political impediments and no preconceptions. Finally, I want to ask you to think about an even larger challenge to this agency. If we're really going to end the chronic disease epidemic, we need to recognize the connection between the physical decrepitude that now beleaguers our citizenry and the pervasive spiritual malaise that has left so many young people feeling alienated, dispossessed, disconnected, purposeless, and hopeless. Spiritual and physical maladies thrive on one another. They feed on one another. Our overall wellness must begin with a spiritual question. How do we relate to ourselves, to each other, to our communities, and to the planet? Vested interests and malignant political actors profit and flourish when we are atomized and fragmented, and uncertain when we can be easily propagandized, when we live in fear and helplessness and victimization. These forces prefer to have us in terror and anxiety, which disable our capacity for critical thinking and make us more compliant and more credulous. They want us hiding from ourselves to avoid our own shadows and dulling our pain and loneliness through sedation and distraction. Yet inside of us, we know that love and self-knowledge are the only true paths to good health. Here at HHS, we need to take on the task of guiding our country and the world to question, towards skepticism, towards engagement, to discover our own paths to living our fullest lives, unleashing the potential in every one of us to make good personal choices that allow us to nourish, to heal, and to develop ourselves. Only this path will make us effective citizens in a democracy. This is decidedly the American identity that we want for our children and their children. Through our own example of dedication and integrity, we can inspire our country on the mission toward well-being and toward achieving our historic mission as an exemplary nation. The goals that I have for HHS, the goals of transparency, of informed choice, of integrity, of efficiency, are possible only with your help. This task before us is historic to reverse a trend of worsening health that goes back 60 years. And I know that we can do it. I know a higher standard of health is possible. I know that because I remember a time that our country was the healthiest and most robust country on earth. With your help and commitment, we can go back to that time. We can have that again. Now let's get to work, and thank you all very much.
All right, great speech, man. And yeah, he's laying it down, telling the truth. Uh, what can you do? Let's go to work. Well, what we would have to do to really do this and do it right is everybody's body is different. Everybody's immune system is different. And how would we be able to do that? I think we would have to take a sample of their blood and then make a vaccine that would fit whatever their outstanding or whatever problems or sickness they have now. I mean, could it be that tedious? It could be. We know this much. Tested vaccines work, but they don't work on everybody. Not everybody is the same. So what would we have to do for them people? We would have to overcome and adapt. And we would have to create a vaccine specially for that person or people that are like that have them problems or health problems already. So when Mr. Kennedy was talking about uh, when the CV hit, people were given vaccines, and people started saying, "Well, the vaccine's killing people," right? But from what I get out of it, these people already had serious problems before the vaccine. So was it the problems that these people had before they got the vaccine, or was it the vaccine? No, I'm going to agree. The vaccine came out real fast. Okay. Didn't take long, and they were pumping out vaccines. Now, whether it was created or something that was already on the shelf that they were using for something else, I don't know. But most of the people that did get the vaccines survived. They did. Yeah, they still got sick. They still get sick today, but not as bad. So was it helping? It saved some people. Majority. What was the count? Were there more people saved from the vaccines than died? And the people that did die, what other problems did they have before CB came along? And you got to look at all that, and you got to go through it, and very tedious, time concerning, money, labor. But could we be as good and powerful as we were, where we can create vaccines for that certain individual, his disease, his DNA, for that individual? Can we be that good? Can we get that good? Yes. You bet your butt we can. But we don't spend enough time in saving lives because there's more money in debt. So I back him if he's going to be legit. If they're going to do this legit, I support tested, proven, tested to work vaccines. That's what I support. Just like the polio shot that I got when I was a kid, just like the measles, just like everything else. You couldn't go to that. That was the law. You ain't stepping in this school without your kid being vaccinated, and that was back in the 70s. Uh, and we probably wouldn't have been around today. Why? Because we are a country of open borders. Yes, a lot of you Americans that never left this country, you have third world diseases. Explain it. How, Mr. Kramer? How? I'll tell you how. But then you'll get pissed at me and you'll take whatever else I got left away from me. Hello, Miss Debbie Fox. So I'm backing them, and I'm a street punk. I'm a punk. I'm an idiot. Whatever. People say you're this, that, whatever. But I can tell this much: I do want to go back to healthy living, and our health. And I know this is going to piss off a lot of government people, a lot of lawyers, and everything. But our bad health is not by our own hands. Now, the food you eat, the drugs you pump into your body, the alcohol you drink, that's your own problem. But those third world country diseases that are here, that our American people and our citizens are getting, that ain't our problem. We didn't bring that upon ourselves. And if you would have closed the doors when we told you to, you wouldn't have this problem. And that's why the lawsuits are coming. Because it ain't by what we ate. It ain't by nothing but you failed to do your jobs. I don't know how many times in the past these professionals came to you people and said, it's just going to take one bug and it's going to wreck your whole world. And they just fail to listen to it. It's impossible. It's just impossible for this country to get a third world. Well, you got third world country diseases in America. And there ain't no lying. There ain't no sweeping it underneath the rug. These people have never even left America. But yet they're riddled with third world country diseases and others brought on by our own way of living. You let the money miser, run the country. And we know all about the money miser. We know all about him. He can give two craps about you. That's why they call him the money miser. Yeah. So, I back Bobby Kennedy. Do I know the man? No. Do I know what kind of trouble he's in? No. Just like I backed the other president, the other president, the other president once they got in. That's your president, and that's it. It ain't my fault if he's making bad calls. That's why he gets $450,000 a year. He made bad calls. That's it. We back him. That's it. What are we going to do? Back out now? Right? We're going into third world war. Oh, well, see you later. I didn't sign up for this. You can't do that. Debbie, it's snowing out and it's cold. And whoever's trespassing on us is very cold. Someone with bad circulation. So, what do I think? Well, I think we need to get back to the way it used to be the olden days. If not anything, to try and prolong our own lives in America. And to make sure it don't happen to our children. And this country is going to have to realize when someone says you got a problem coming, if you don't shut the borders, If you don't shut everything down, maybe next time they'll listen. Whether it came from another country or right here in America. Water's so tainted during the, well, probably because all the big business that paid billions of dollars to pump shit into our, excuse my language, Lord, that's my Tourette's coming on me. To pump their chemicals into our streams and buy the stuff. It's free enterprise. You can't tell them it's going to kill them. Yeah, that's why. So the evil monster has reared its head in America. What do? Hunker down and work as a team. And we got to do it for our grandchildren and their children and their children. I'm petrified to leave these kids in this world. They only care about money. They only care about money and power and how they look. That's it. You got 50 million people dying of a virus. Oh, well, I mean, how do I look? Do I look good? Yeah. That's your problem in America. Everyone is king. And you got no workers. Why? Well, they're entrepreneurs. I don't need to work for nobody. I'll just go sell dope, or I'll just steal from this guy that's got billions or whatever. And yeah, madness. Satan. Anyone telling you that it ain't true is pumping another line there. That's Satan telling you that he don't exist. I don't care if he does or not. All I know, he ain't getting no power from me. He might steal it, but he ain't getting it any way other than what the Father said he would. Lie, cheat, steal. Look right in Mr. Trump's face. I didn't steal nothing from Johnny Kramer or this country. They'll look right into these people's faces and say that. Why? Because their whole life has been a lie. Not one of them got a blister on their palms from hard labor. They never had to get up and walk in the snow and get frostbite on the way to work or to school or any of it. They never eat a piece of cardboard because they were hungry with a little bit of salt and pepper and olive oil on it. Yeah. People are like, that never happened. You folks better do your history real fast. Because some of your grandpappies were eating leather soup, shoes that they boiled down. Why? Because it's made of cow. They ate it. That was called the Depression. You folks have a great night. We're here if you need us, government. We're poor idiots. We're getting mad. They're just taking everything from us. From me. Good God Almighty. If anybody can fix it, Jesus. And we're going to need him. Because this is going to take time for what Mr. Kennedy's talking about. And it's going to take time for what the other parts of the government are doing in Congress and Senate to come. I'll tell you what. It's a 3-party system, judicial system. And they all like getting their butts kissed. So how do you get anything done? You go right down there and talk to them. Right in front of Congress and Senate. None of this, I'm too good. I'm this, I'm that. No. You go down there and you put your papers and your evidence and your opinions to Congress and Senate and ask them for help. That's what you do. Why? Because that's the way it's supposed to be. They're all battling amongst themselves. They all think they're better than the other side. It is continue. You know what it reminds me of? London. when they're down there bickering in their system. Oh, I watch London too inside their country and they're just yelling, "You bloody cunt! You son of," throwing chairs and shit. Yeah, I mean, and that's where America's whole thing came from. When they came here, and it was just them and the Indians. I don't know. You folks have a great day. God bless. Uh, we're danged if we're citizens. We're danged if we do. We're danged if we don't. No matter who you vote for, the whole thing gets put on the American people. Debbie, I'm sorry you had to hear me slip when I cursed, but that's part of my. And I don't curse. I only curse when my when I can't control my Tourette's or whatever they call it. I don't know. APD or whatever they call it. I'm not sure, but yeah, because that's the only time I get when I'm upset about something, I'll curse. But it really ain't me. It really ain't me. But thank you, folks, for listening, and we need better doctors, nurses, medicine facilities. These people need to be trained how to disinfect properly. We once were the most cleanest, wealthiest, healthiest country in the world, and now we are the most dirtiest. I watch these other countries, and they you can eat off of their toilets. You could eat off of the streets. It's unbelievable. You folks have a good night. God bless. Dang, it's chilly. Have a good night. I will be back with Delphi case. It's opened up another can of worms. Thank you, Miss Debbie, for stopping in. I have Tourette's to deal with it.